Okay, we are recording, everybody. Welcome to Psychology of Play. This is your week one live lecture. My name is Emily Green, and I'm an instructor here at Full Sail. Just a little bit about me. And FYI, if you're like, who is this person? This isn't my instructor. You might have Marie. I know Marie's here in the chat box, and she wanted to say hi to her students. Maria and I sometimes co-teach, and so I'm going to be doing week one and week two, our live lectures, and then she's going to jump in for week three and week four. So if I'm not your actual instructor, you are still in the right place. So no worries there. I'm curious, who in here, if you would type in the chat box, what are you here at Full Sail for? So if you just type in the chat box so I can get a feel. Game art for Brittany, game design, mobile development, sports casting, digital marketing, computer animation, recording arts, media communications for Andrew, Terrence has audio production, graphic design, and other, digital marketing, consumer psych, that's interesting, Joshua. Another from computer animation, entertainment business, audio production. Okay, well, I love it because we've got like a variety. So I think it'll be really interesting and just make our discussions richer, especially as we get into the following weeks. I understand for a lot of our students, another sports casting for William, sometimes just gets easier to get more into discussions as the weeks go on. So thank you guys for sharing and welcome here. What I love about this course is it's just relevant to everybody. And it's a really good primer. That's what I think of it, to set you up for success on your journey here at Full Sail, no matter which of the programs you're in. And we had a wide range, a diversity of programs. So like I said, I'm Emily Green. Just a little bit about me. I'm a native Floridian. I've been here at Full Sail a while, and I also am a psychotherapist, and I specialize in EMDR therapy. It's a trauma-focused therapy that's really, really cool. I'm biased. So I will refrain from going down that rabbit hole. But what I love about my job as a therapist and then as a teacher is it really is a function of learning. So for me, my basic belief, like my baseline, is that we all have the ability to learn, heal, and grow. And this class allows a lot of learning, introducing to concepts that you're probably going to find are like feel common. It feels familiar. However, a lot of us, we know the things that are good for us. We know the concepts that bring about positive growth in our life. However, those hardly ever really truly relate to common action in our daily lives. So this class is going to get you not only learning cognitively about something, but experientially actually doing it. So I'm really excited. So here's just our agenda for the day. We're going to go over class purpose and goals, our expectations, and I want to review the content for week one just so you get a really clear understanding of what is what, what's due, and when, so you can find your rhythm, find the rhythm of the class, and then experience little, if any, speed bumps through week one, two, and three, and four. So the idea of our class is centered around the concept and doing of play. For the class, we're looking at play as an outward expression of your passions and interest. It's an activity that actually creates a sense of pleasure, relaxation, and well-being. It's a way to tap into our inner resource of creativity and happiness, which of course is going to impact our motivation, our performance, and that can be performance in any field. And also it's going to contribute to our personal and professional achievement. So what I think is really interesting for our students is the concept of play has become much more, I think, present in our pop culture. So it's not necessarily like a whole new idea, but we're going to go deeper in the course and get just a lot more than just what can be surface. So the purpose of our class is to experience play and to examine it as a conduit to these areas of improving your development within yourself, your mastery, your ability to express. And again, this is going to apply both to your personal self and to your professional, or you can think of professional as also, I think of it as housing your academic life as well. I really think of play as this neat intersection of conscious and the unconscious. Play is a place, you can think of it, a place you go through an activity that is, yes, some parts you're aware of, but you can usually find the undercurrents of things you've maybe forgotten about or aren't consciously aware of. Play, we're also going to look as a way of achieving some of the things a lot of us struggle with, and I'm laughing because this is as relevant to me as it is for you, or is the concept of balance, well-being, wholeness, and just a greater awareness. So you here at Full Sail, I know you shared about like what program you're actually here for, but if you think about it a second, what's that deeper underlining purpose for what brought you here to Full Sail? And as you think of that, if you'd be willing, I'd love to see you type it in the chat box so we can get an understanding of where everyone's coming from. So what brought you to Full Sail? You might be here for sports casting, audio production, entertainment business, but what's the underlining principle that brought you here to Full Sail? Brittany says to extend a better foundation for my family and myself, higher caliber of learning for Joshua, Edgar to have a deeper understanding of music. Mitchell, an injury caused me to return to school for a different career. Mitchell, I can connect with you for sure. James, can't do the work I previously loved doing to medical reasons. CJ, to further my knowledge in audio engineering. And Angel, to make sure I make a change in my life. Amanda, passion to use my art to help others and inspire them. Alexander, I'm going to read a couple more. Understand how programming interacts with people. And Terrence, further my knowledge of audio production world. And Vincent, a little late. Yes, you're in the right place, Vincent. This is Psychology of Play. So just kind of jump in, plug in, and it'll make sense in a little bit. Glad you're here, Vincent. Let's see, last one. I think, James, I don't know how to pronounce your first name. I'm sorry. I'm going to say, I just want to learn how to animate and know about art. Okay, so I love what you guys shared. Thank you so much for sharing. So what I find that's really interesting about this class is it's going to get you guys really connected to the underlining purpose of actually what brought you here. So you guys list a lot of, ooh, Vincent, I love yours. I want to share my stories. You guys all shared your own personal reason. Sorry, I brought my dog into my office today, and he's like really wanting to get up in the computer space. Fenric. Oh, thank you, Fenric. Okay, I got Milky Way out of the way. Yes, I like bringing my dog to the office sometimes. So, but he sheds a lot and he's really nosy, so sometimes he gets in the way. I have a mutt. It's a rescue dog, so it's just a lovable kind. Let me see. So I do want to share a couple of things that popped up as I was listening to people or reading people's reasons for being here. A couple of you said things about how something's happened in your life and it's changed your ability. For me, I can connect with that so well, and I wish I couldn't, and I wish those of you who can didn't know what this is like either. But what I have found for my own personal experience and what's changed with me in this class is I had a really bad injury. I'm still healing from it. So what I have gotten so much out of this class, it's deepened for me since I was teaching before I fell, and obviously now after, into the recovery process, which has been long and hard. But what I find is the material that we're going to get into really helps connect us to play, and play as a really like kind of like a, oh, what are those like old telephones, like the direct line to ourselves. And what I find is for any of you who are going through changes that are unwelcomed, yet you're just really trying to do the best to make the best out of it, this class is going to help you. It's also going to push you and expand you to think about play in a much bigger dimension. Because I know for me, the things that I've always loved to do has been very action and body oriented. That's just how my play innately expresses myself. With my injuries, there for a long time, I wasn't able to walk. Some of it's still sometimes a struggle for me. So the things I naturally go to, I don't have access to right now. My goal is to be able to get strong enough to resume those, but it's been a 5-year process already. So I've been able, over time, it got hard for a while because I didn't want to do anything unless I could do it 100%, to really think of play in a much different way. And it gave me access to different parts of myself I wasn't really connected to, which were different kinds of play that were more, I don't want to say passive, but just more internal. So I've gotten really into martial arts and Taoism and Tai Chi, and it's brought me a lot of healing and also just a lot of extension of play. So I really think you're going to like the course no matter where you are in your life's journey, in your health journey, and it's all going to help us grow together. Okay, so let me get us back in presentation mode. Okay, so I want to give you a little walkthrough and go over excuse me, class structure, your weekly activities, and then to know what you need to do and how to do it. So I'm going to pop over here and go into your FSO portal. So when you get here, if you're anything like me and you see a lot of words, you might totally kind of shut down. So to help your brain, you can always come up here and just click on the do this week. So if we're going to look at just at week 1, and the good news is from week 1, 2, 3, and 4, all of the time frames, the rhythms of when things are due is exactly the same. So here's a little walkthrough. If you haven't popped in here already, this is going to be your first look at it. And if you had already, hopefully this will just make sense of some things you've already looked at. So under here, you're going to see your professionalism. We look at professionalism as your engagement in the class. So I know I do this, and I think Marie does too. We wait to the very end of the month to put this grade in. So if anything was not turned in, any of the weighted assignments, so it's not like if you didn't click to do your reading, it will be those weighted assignments, which we'll get to in just a second. You'll lose 5 points for everyone you didn't participate in. So that's the gist of professionalism here. So in week 1, you're going to have a call to play, which today is due. Now, I want to bring your attention to something. This call to play is called a test, but is not really a test. So the call to play is a series of reflection questions that are going to help you, and I don't think you can see them all on my side. Let me see. Yeah, but in here you'll see that when you go to each one, you're going to be asked a question, and here is going to be your response. So again, this isn't a test. You're not graded on it for if you've read the material. So to do these, you don't need to have read anything yet. It's priming you, it's introducing you to concepts, and it's getting you thinking about the activity that you're going to do for the week. So again, a call to play, it's due tonight by 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you save yourself a lot of headache and don't wait to the very end to start posting it. We know how technical issues can just really make that stressful. So this is just reflection questions that you're answering, and you'll go through each one. I think there's 8, except maybe there's 7. But you'll have all of them there, and that's where you enter them in. So a call to play, even though it says it's a test, and I know I'm repeating myself, but you'd be surprised how many people don't really hear this. They'll just see it and they're like, this is a test. I haven't done the reading. That's just because we need to do that on our back end to be able to have this ability for you to actually just answer some questions. But again, we're just looking for completion here, okay? Any questions about that? If you have any questions, just type in the chat box. It's pretty self-explanatory. I found the 3 to 4 sentence thing difficult on most of the questions. James, honestly, like it's okay. If some of them are going to be, it's okay if it's a little brief. I'm just wanting more than a word or two. So if you can get to 3 and 4, have that be the goal. But don't get hung up there on it. However, in your weekly assignment, which we're going to get to in a second, I'm going to see a lot of thoroughness there. So the call to play, just think of it as that primer. It's getting you thinking about what the material is. It's introducing you to some concepts, and then it's also going to introduce you to your activities for the week. Okay, let me move the chat box so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so that's a call to play. Then you have here, you have your readings for the week. Your readings are all within these activities. So just click on there. It's nice, set up for you, everything like that, okay? You'll see at the end, don't mean to make you spaz out with the fast scrolling, you can mark as complete. If for any reason you forget to do that, it's totally okay. The only things that are ever going to count against you are the weighted assignments, which each week you have 2, which is this one, the call to play, and then your discussion, okay? So click the buttons of completion for yourself. It just kind of helps you make sure you're doing what you're doing. But if you forget to click it, you don't get counted off for not clicking the completed button. So hopefully you'll remember that. I had some students kind of freak out on me last month, but I think they're the overachievers, and you know how that goes. Okay, so the primary activity for the week is your discussion post. In your discussion post, ooh, I think this one is saying the wrong date on here. Let me check a calendar. Oh, I don't want you to see that. Let me see. That was from last month. I need to change this. Hold on, I'm checking my calendar and I'll change this on there. Yeah, I'm sorry. This one, I'll change this in a second. But this is due, forget the initial post-discussion Friday extension. That was because of last month's hurricane. So I need to fix that. But it's due on Thursday. So you won't be getting the Friday extension. If you ever do need one, just reach out to us and let us know. We're really here to help you do what you need to do. So in your discussion post, which is due on Thursday, your discussion post, you're answering some questions that have to do with 2 quests that you've selected to do. So each week, as you'll find when you do your call to play, which is that first weighted assignment, you're being introduced to 4 options you have, and you only have to pick 2. And so this is where the play becomes experiential. So I'm going to show you here what your week 1 options are. So for week 1, you have 4 options to complete an experiential activity that's going to introduce you to concepts of play that we're going to get to in a little bit when we get into the material. So your first quest, which you might choose to do this week, is creative space. And in here, you're just going to take a space that maybe you already have, or you're going to be creating one from scratch. And you're going to take a before and an after picture of the things that you've done to really enhance and create a space that's just for you. Some students have done the really cool thing by doing like a time-lapse video, and then they've presented that as their creative project. If you choose to do Quest 2, Quest 2 is a really cool one, and it's one I actually really encourage students to do. And Quest 2 you can do every week. So other than in week 1 you have certain options, week 2, 3, and 4, but every week you do have the option to do the weekly plan. Now the weekly plan, what I find is really helpful for it, especially with students who are just starting out, what you're up against. You've got an accelerated program that goes super fast. So if anybody is like me and has a tendency to be forgetful unless you write things down, this is going to be one of the quests I think will really help you succeed in this class and then also throughout your rest of your time here at Full Sail. So what you're going to be doing here is you complete and carry out the weekly plan, and we provide you with the template. And you're following, it's like the work is a category, play, fit, push, and plan. Or all of those things together make your weekly plan. So you have category for work, for your play, for fit, which fitness doesn't necessarily have to just be like that action-oriented, I'm going to the gym. You can use your creative discretion, and then push. And push for the weekly plan, push is an idea of when you want to take it to the next level. So for some students who they've always, a lot of our writing students will do something like for a push goal. If they've been wanting to work on a book, they'll actually each week plan out structure to help them do that, like make an outline this week, actually work on chapter 1 and things like that. So If you have a big goal that you've been getting frustrated at yourself for not getting on top of, I think the weekly plan could really help you actually achieve those goals. Okay, so quest number 3. So if you choose to do this one, this is the passion project. And a lot of students really like this one. I'd say this week, your creative space and passion project seem to be pretty popular. So in this one, you're going to engage in your favorite play activity and follow it up with working on some kind of creative project. And the idea is you're going to see how play influence like your performance and your ability to do that thing. And we give you some examples in the discussion. The next one, actually one's pretty popular too, is your play collage. This is where you're making a collage that's going to include 2 images of your past play that you did as a young child, 2 present images that represent the play that you engage in now, and then 2 other images that represent your future play. So obviously the 2 future ones, it can't really be a picture that you already have. You can get as creative with that as you want to. It could be an image of someone else doing something you want to do or that you foresee yourself doing. So the play collage, all of these, whichever you choose to do, you just need to choose 2. So please don't do all 4. That would overwhelm anyone. Just pick the 2 that resonate with you. And in your call to play, it's going to introduce you to these more, and you're going to select them tonight. So when you're filling out that activity, the call to play, you'll be thinking about which ones you want to do. If you want to change them, that's no problem. You can totally do that. So does anybody have any questions? If you do, type them in the chat box. Any questions about the quest? I think sometimes week 1, it's kind of like, what is this about? But you'll get into the flow of it, and it'll start to make sense when you're actually doing it. Okay, so I do want to show you a little bit more extensively of this. So I really advise you when you're completing your discussion post is to use this same format. So type it in, number format 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here you're completing your weekly readings, which obviously you can, you don't have to include that one, but a lot of students just like to follow that and say, yep, completed my readings. Which 2 quests did you choose to do? So 2 is where you would say, hey, I decided to complete my play collage and the weekly plan. And then you're going to describe each of those experiences. Now, in your description of this experience, I'm wanting to see, support to your work and answers. I don't want to see, I did it, it was great. So think about your bare minimum of a paragraph is 4 to 5 sentences, okay? So in number 3, when you're addressing number 3, you're always connecting it back to the material. So you're identifying at least 2 concepts from the week's reading. And this is going to make sense as we get into some of the concepts earlier. So in here, some of the week's reading is going to introduce you to concepts such as your play personality, different types or qualities of play. It's going to introduce you to the concepts of time batching, multitasking, things like that. So depending on which quest you did when you're addressing number 3, you're going to be connecting your experience with your play collage or your experience with your weekly schedule by supporting it with concepts from the week. I always recommend to either underline, bold, or highlight the concepts because this is just really ensuring that you are meeting the requirements. When students are doing this in written form, I'm looking for a good chunky paragraph, and I say that because I'm wanting you to be able to connect and support your work back to the material. If you want to, you can always do a video or an audio version of you talking, but you need to make sure that you're being very clear when you're doing those. Sometimes students forget to stay organized when they're doing them. So just make sure that you're staying organized in your work if you're doing written, audio, or some kind of video presentation when you're discussing and answering the questions out loud. Number 4, don't forget number 4. People tend to forget this. You're explaining how completing these quests spark creativity for you, and we're wanting some specificity. So this is kind of like the bringing it all home. How did your experience of the whole week boost creativity for you? And then number 5, you're uploading your creative deliverables. So for you, if you did your weekly schedule, which you can see right here, we give you, and I'll show it to you right now, a template, you would upload that. If you did the play collage, you would upload that. So here's your week play fit push schedule. If you want to make your own, you can certainly do that. Up here, how we have it organized, you have work, play, fitness, and again, you can think of that in a broader term, and then push, and then you would just put in here what you did or what you plan to do. Okay. These are due on Thursday. Please ignore the Friday extension. That's from last month. I forgot to change that. I'm sorry about that. Your initial discussion is due on Thursday at the end of the day, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but just make sure to get it in before. You don't want to wait till 11:59 and then have to deal with the stress of that. So that's the first part, which is due on Thursday. Your response posts are due on Sunday. So this is when you get to engage with classmates by responding to their initial discussion post. And we want you to do at least 2. So 2 is, again, the minimum that we're looking for. If you want to do more, please do. But this is what I don't want to see. I don't want to see, hey, I liked your post, and that's it. We're looking for more engagement. We're looking for you providing feedback that is meaningful, or just, saying, man, I was really inspired by what you had to say, and then kind of leading into more of a discussion. We give you an example of some things that can help you do that if that's something you need a little bit more ideas on. Okay, any questions in the chat box? If so, type it in the chat box, I meant to say. Okay. All right, if not, so now we're going to get into the meat, which is the fun stuff of our material. Okay, so remember, your takeaway is, for what's due, is you have tonight, you have a call to play, which is, remember, it's just your reflection questions. It's not a test, but it is due tonight. You'll have your reading materials for the week, and then your discussion post. And your discussion post is due on Thursday, that initial discussion post where you'll be answering the questions thoroughly, I'm stressing that, and then uploading your creative project. And then, let me see, and your responses are due on Sunday. And remember, 2. Okay, so we kind of went into those. We went into those. We went into all of this. Look at us, already going through this really well. Okay, so content. Lovely. So qualities of play. So the idea of play, which we talked about, is really engaging in something that you love to do. It gives you access to these parts of yourself that you might have felt really withdrawn from or disconnected to for a long time. But some of the things you might not have realized are plays have different qualities. There's a total of 7. Now, these qualities of play, they may be present in most of the things you do. They can have kind of overlap. So here's some of them. Now, this is the first one, the quality of play that we understand we push up against. So play within itself is a voluntary act. Now, obviously, you've got to do the class to get the grade and to move on to the next. So this is rather involuntary. So what I really hope that you'll borrow is an idea of a disciplined approach to the week. So when we play, most of the time, we're doing this just because we want to do it. No one's forcing us to. So again, the idea here is there is an innate spirit of true play. And you'll probably find them as you're thinking about your week. You already have these things in your life. So those can be things that you work into, your quest, if they fit, and things like that. So again, it's voluntary usually. We understand here it's a requirement, but I like to look at it as the disciplined approach. Another quality of play is apparently purposeless. Now, this one's probably one of my favorites, but I could say this to most of them. This is where play is done for its own sake. There is no idea of, like, I got to get this done. It's not goal directed. So some may think, especially as adults, that play is completely pointless, but here the idea is that is a wonderful life-giving thing. Another one is inherent attraction. So anything that you're just naturally drawn to, an activity that just beckons you and calls you, that is that expression of that kind of quality of play where there's just that inherent attraction. So some of you probably are thinking of the things that you just loved to do. It just feels like there was never a time where you didn't love to do that. So if you think of some of the things that you do now for fun, for play, what are those that you're inherently attracted to? And if you would just type it in the chat box. For me, before I got hurt, I loved to surf. So being in the water is just something that I absolutely love. And I really love just pushing myself. And so I loved big water. That was something I've always been inherently attracted to. Now, luckily for me, I've learned how to appreciate other qualities of play because right now I can't surf. But I've picked up other things that I'm not inherently attracted to, yet I have come to really deeply appreciate and get a lot from. So I want to see what some of you are saying. Let's see, video editing. Honestly, I love to draw, Photoshop. Oops, where'd my chat box go? I want to see. Someone was saying drawing. Sports, had hard times with your knee. So Brittany, this might be some things that you can connect to too, of the things that once upon a time, yes, you love to do and you could just do it. And sometimes as we age or we go through medical issues or accidents and injuries, we can no longer be involved in those. And then I know if you know what that's like, how that lessens your quality of life. So I really hope that you'll think of these qualities of play as another kind of doorway into play and getting more of that in your life. Let's see, haunt acting, video games, writing, drawing, yoga. So we got a lot of different things. Okay, so let's get back in presentation mode. So diminished consciousness of self. So this happens in a play activity where you completely lose track of time. It's just one of those things that you could be like, oh my gosh, what? An hour just passed? I only meant to do this for like 10 minutes. So it's that time where you get completely in the zone that you lose yourself. The next one is, oh, wait a second. I kind of mixed those up. I'm sorry. Diminished consciousness of self. It's not just the losing track of time here. It's when you aren't aware of like your image and the concept of perception. So, for some of us, I know someone was saying they're inherently attracted to yoga. If I went into a yoga class, I'd probably be really conscious of how I'm looking, how I'm doing compared to others. So I'm not experiencing diminished consciousness of self, where someone else who loves yoga isn't inherently attracted to it. They might have that sense of like, you know what? I'm so in the zone here. I'm not really aware of myself. So the freedom from time is when you lose track of time. It could be when you're playing your music, in any play for you where you just completely are like, oh my gosh, there you go. I thought I was only doing this for a little bit, but I stepped away from my computer and I'm doing my Photoshop and it's been however long. And what's really neat, I think, for our creative students is they experience play and not just like this separateness activity, but a lot of them, not all, do experience a lot in their, and I'm just going to say this like general, like in their profession, if you're a web designer, if you're writing, if you're, working on a project, a lot of play is involved in the things that students come here for. And so they find a lot of these qualities in their actual work life. So the next quality is your improvisational potential. So this is the idea where things can just keep moving and changing, just like you see in an improv play. If you think back to when we were kids, you saw this all the time where you would just make up new rules as you went along. Sometimes that went over well, sometimes it didn't. So it really just gives us the opportunity to explore any kind of possibility that we can create. The next one is the continuation desire. So it's this kind of play that you just want to keep doing it because it's fun. It's not tied to performance. It's not tied to a sense of obligation. It comes out of just that innate joy of it and the desire to keep experiencing that. So for you, think about what you just love to do. What qualities are present in your play? And if you will, just type it in the chat box and I'll read some of them. So if you guys would think about the play that you are involved in, what qualities of play are present in yours? Fenric says he loses track of time. James has all of them, all of the qualities. Anybody else want to share if you think of maybe some of the things you love? So intense focus. So Tyler, for you, you might experience that diminished consciousness of self if you're so focused on something, or freedom from time, or even both. Edgar says losing track of time. I think that's probably one that a lot of play you'll find is there. Angel says, I think I have a lot of great qualities in my work. Now, Angel, remember the qualities are referred to the types of qualities of play. Just want to remind you of that. Amanda, definitely time, started streaming yesterday and ended up at over an hour of gameplay footage. See, and that's one of the cool things is, well, when we balance it, in case we don't forget, it's like, oh, I gotta leave to pick up my kids or something like that. Amanda, purposelessness. Okay, definitely time. Got a lot. Oh, here's Mitchell with inherent attraction and the improv potential and loss of time. All right. Okay, so you guys are getting it. You're getting how to identify those qualities of play. So remember, all of this is going to help you when you're completing your assignment, which is, the main one is due on Thursday, that discussion post. So some of this you can use if you pick a quest that is relevant to qualities of play and things like that. Okay, so let's keep moving, doing a little time check. All right, we're good. Okay, so play personalities. There's 8 personalities. So you may find that you have multiple personalities, and in this case, I would totally be fine. Or you might, really have more, 1 or 2 that are more dominant, and some others that are, less, and then some that you just might not connect to. So this is just a way to help you really think of play and understand yourself from a lens that can connect not only now, but to the past, and then also look out to the future. So this is one of the things that could be really helpful, these concepts, if you do your play collage. All right, so the first one is the Joker. So if you have a play personality of a Joker, you just love to be silly, you love to laugh. You're more of that practical Joker. I know my oldest is definitely in this camp. The Explorer is someone who loves experiencing new things. They enjoy visiting places a lot of the time, searching for even deeper emotional connections. So those are some things that if you're the Explorer, you might find, yeah, I love to do those, or that's definitely me. The Director, you can think of directors if you are just, I don't know, I'm thinking of my cousin Nadine because that's totally her. She's a born organizer, enjoys planning, creating and delivering like high-powered events. The Director, this is something that she would do when we were little. We would create plays, and of course, she's the director and would organize us and correct us and everything like that. The Artist Creator, which I would not be surprised if many of you, if not all of you, had. I would, if not dominant, at least maybe at your 1 or 2 play personality. Your Artist Creator just loves, obviously, creating. They love making things, that shares their creations with the world or prefers to keep them to themselves. So most of our students here tend to be ones that love to create, they're makers, and they love to share that. Where that's usually it. I know for myself, like I love creating things, but I don't like sharing them with people. I like keeping them for my own self. But either is still you're connecting with that artist creator within you. Now, the kinesthetic, this is someone who just loves to move. They naturally want to push their bodies and feel the result. I know this has always been me, and I know some of you shared in the chat box earlier that you've gone through some health or medical things. And it's really hard when you're unable to be yourself in the way you've always known yourself. So this is when I really, really want to encourage you guys, depending on where you are in your life, if it's limitations due to physical, to health, to, just the time demands that you have on you, is to think of how these other play personalities and qualities of play can expand your vision of yourself, and help introduce you to parts of yourself that, yeah, you usually wouldn't maybe be connected to, but now if you have limits, these can help um, fill that access to play. The competitor. Now, the competitor enjoys games and loves to win. So this is someone as the competitor that can be really helpful when you identify this of yourself, is what kind of competitor are you? I kind of like it when students kind of take that next look at themselves, where especially when they're reflecting and connecting things from their their experience, their quest of the week, and they're thinking about how it relates to themselves and the concepts, where they can really dig deeper and look at themselves, and know that that competitor is something that's really motivated them, and it's why they're here. And they can see how it looks in their academic life, their professional life. They see where it comes up in their personal lives and their relationships, and how that can be a good thing, but maybe also it could be that thing where you're like, oh wow, I need to kind of maybe not make everything a competition. So I really want to just help you guys think of these concepts in ways, kind of like windows that you can look through to see yourself and understand, you know, different parts about yourself, so that when you're connecting things back to the material in your discussion, that you're able to really kind of think bigger and really reflect on some things. So the collector is someone who just loves to collect not just objects or things, but experiences. I have the thing that pops in my head is my oldest. I think of him as a hoarder, but I'm trying to think of him more as a collector. And he has trinkets. He has so many treasure, like little cigar boxes that he's put like rocks and mulch in. I mean, all kinds of things. And then I was cleaning out his room the other day, and I'm talking about like one of those planes that you get from Chick-fil-A, like one of those paper planes like that you can put together. And I was throwing it away, and he got so upset. And I'm like, yo, man, it's just paper plane and it's torn. He goes, Mom, that was a memory. Grandmother took me to Chick-fil-A and we made that together. And it was one of those moments you're like, oh my goodness, that's really how he's experiencing these things. So for me, I got to be kind of real sneaky when we're clearing things out so he doesn't see. But if you're a collector, you might really understand where he was coming from, where it's not just collecting things, it's also experiences and the meaning behind it. Okay, so the storyteller. Now, storyteller play personality, I'm sure you all have in you. You love sharing just stories. I think was it Alexander who was saying or no, Vincent, you were saying you're here because you want to learn how to share stories. It's just one of those things that the storytellers love in various forms of expression. Doing that, you can do that in the written word and video and audio, and I mean your imagination is your guide in this. So you think about it. So right now, you guys all think about the things that you've loved to do in your past, the things you love to do now. Which play personality are you? And if you would type it in the chat box. Let's see, Erica is the director and explorer. Erica, do you see that represented in your past play, the things you love to do as a kid and now, or one or the other? Let's see, Edgar is a joker and competitor. Amanda is the artist, explorer, storyteller, director. CJ is the storyteller and creator. Alexander collected rocks when I was younger and always disappointed. When I was told I needed to put them back outside. Alexander, you can totally relate to my oldest Asher. He's that way. Tyler is the artist creator. Edgar the collector, also for you. So what's really neat, you guys, thank you guys for sharing. Let me see, Erica says, I used to always create plays and ride my bike for miles, going places I didn't belong. Okay, so definitely the explorer, Erica, I can see that. So as you guys are thinking of these, you can see how it adds a depth to the idea of play, where it's not just this on the surface kind of thing. Oh yeah, I used to love, building Legos, or yeah, I used to love, playing tag. You can take that play and appreciate it and also gain more insight into yourself when you're applying these concepts. So those are the things that we're wanting to see you do throughout this week and see that represented in your work. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick little time check. And all right, I think we have some time to go through these. All right, so I would say for most of the students, the material that we just went over, the play personalities and qualities of play, are really kind of the focus of week 1 for them and the quest that they tend to do. The intelligences or intelligence, when we look at this in a little bit, it's maybe not, you may or may not see it as prevalent this week for you, but you might, so I want to go over them kind of quickly. So we're going to look at intelligence not just for like how smart you are, so to speak, as quote unquote, I just see it's like, are you a good test taker or not? Because I know for me, intelligence that is captured through a test, it's really hard for some of us to do well on those things. And that's also what I really like about our class, is because we're not looking for, memorization. We're looking for learning and applied learning. And the students really seem to get it and grasp it because it is connecting them back to yourselves. And we all love to learn about ourselves. So think of this class as a deep dive into yourself. But when we think of intelligences, we can think of intelligence this week through different, I don't want to say levels, or different areas or categories. So if you're someone who has that logical, mathematical intelligence, you love being involved in analyzing problems. You love investigating issues scientifically. You love numbers. I can be honest and tell you this is not my strong suit. Musical intelligence. Now, I know a lot of you are here for different music programs or music production. I think there's audio production. We had a few of y'all. So this is probably something you rank really high in. So your musical intelligence, it's not just a skill, but you have a knack for appreciating things. Oh, thought or idea I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know if any of you have watched it yet, but on PBS right now, they've released Ken Burns' documentary on country music. And I gotta say, it is so interesting. I mean, talk about the power of storytelling and history and just music and evolution and how all of those things are involved. I got to tell you, when I think of country music, I don't think of like that's something I really want to, turn on. But I learned so much and enjoyed it. It's I think there's 6 episodes and they're each 2 hours. So just wanted to throw that out. I thought you guys would really like it. Because it did bring out more appreciation for me in the history and the stories. So just FYI. Okay, so if you have a visual spatial knack, you're going to have a stronger ability to manipulate objects in space. So you might see this for those of you who are creating models, maybe even are web designers. You have a knack for seeing how things are spatially represented and what looks good and kind of what doesn't. So the interpersonal intelligence, you're going to have a knack for knowledge and an understanding of your own behavior. So this has a strong sense of personal awareness. And this, again, it's not necessarily really relevant or not relevant, or only reflected in play. I think it's just relevant for all of us and can be reflected a lot in our relationships. And then also understanding, you know, maybe why we're here more. It can be a really good source of personal understanding that can also help us when maybe we feel really pressured. So this is something that I think if you have a knack for, or if you want to get better at, really understanding how you work, more things like that. So linguistic intelligence, this is going to have, you have a knack for language, and that could be written or spoken. So some of you here that are for, if it's sports casting or, creative writing, all of that has to do with communication. And I think of that as something very powerful. And actually thinking about it, all of you are here for something involved in communication. So this is something that I think you can really lean on and develop more in your weekly assignment of your discussion post, because you're getting the chance to express yourself, if that's written or if you're doing like a more audio or video presentation. This is really harnessing and putting the effort into doing that. Okay, so the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. I forgot the I right there. It involves the ability to use fine body movements and to handle objects skillfully. It's characterized by an acute sense of timing, dexterity, balance, flexibility, and a lot of these things kind of come second nature to you. So you might be doing these things without even recognizing you're doing them. Interpersonal intelligence, this is really about relationships and your ability to work well with others, which again, here in this class, we see it for our online students as, since you're not here with us in the classroom, sitting beside your other classmates, the response post is your access to that connection and community. So your interpersonal and intelligence, we're looking for you to to apply that ability to engage with another person, and to build some kind of connection. So if you're a naturalist, if you have that knack for the naturalist intelligence, you're very involved in the environment. And I think this is something we've all seen right now, what's currently going on in our world, that there's I don't think of revival almost, or more people who are that naturalist intelligence are really coming out. So in a nutshell, those are our main concepts in the material for the week. There's some more stuff in there, but I wanted to go over the meatier things. If you're going to be doing your work, play, fit, push, and that's the concept of the schedule, the weekly schedule, you'll find some things in there about time batching and the organization, which are pretty self-explanatory. So I really enjoyed getting to introduce you to our class. I think you'll find that the class is just, again, it's one of those classes that's a good foundation to have as you embark on this, pretty incredible journey of your education here. So one of the theorists that is probably one of my biggest, mentors, not the word because he's not alive. He's inspired me a lot, is the work of Carl Jung, and I see a lot of his work represented in our class with the idea of play. So this is just a quote that I wanted to leave you with. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. So I really hope that you guys will get involved, get connected, jump into the class. I think you'll get a lot out of it that will benefit you not only here at Full Sail, but will help assist you in other areas of your life as well. So there you go. That's our class for today. I'm going to be posting the recording by noon tomorrow. So just a couple things to go over. I just want to drive these home. Is this. So usually our live lectures are on Tuesdays. You'll see each week you can sign up like you did today. On Tuesdays, you have your call to play, which is that reflection question that's due. So today's Tuesday, so those are due today. You have your reading materials for the week that you're doing on your own time. You do not have to complete the readings before you can answer the questions in this activity. And then your discussion post is due on Thursday, that initial part that addresses the questions, and then your response posts are due on Sunday. Okay, everybody, I hope you had a great time. Thank you for being here and for participating. We will meet again next week. Thank you, guys.